What's up, everyone? It's the Athletic Hockey Show with Hailey, Salvian. No Sean Gentili, but that's okay because we have Shayna Goldman here this week. Eric Stevens is going to join us today as well to chat about the Western Conference playoff race and Macklin Celebrini's Hart Trophy credentials. But first, Shayna, I'm actually so glad that you're here instead of Sean, like always, but this week specifically, because you were at the PWHL game at Madison Square Garden. Tell me everything. How was it?
It was amazing. It was so good. So the funny part is I was at MSG 2 weeks earlier for Rangers Jets. And there were points in that game where I'm like, I feel like you can hear a pin drop. And the entire time we're sitting there, we're like, this is going to be so different in 2 weeks. Like we both knew it. Like this is going to be a vibe. And just everything about it. Like you get off the train and you see people in Sirens jerseys. So like you're automatically excited because it just feels different. And then the game isn't even started yet. You're 30 minutes out. There's pregame skate going on and warm-ups. And the vibes are incredible already. Like the energy in the stands. People are beaming. So excited. There are merch lines. You would think you're at like an Olivia Rodrigo concert at MSG with the merch lines. Especially because there was that Together shirt for sale at the game.
The PWHL one? Yeah.
Yep. It was sold out by the end of the first period when I went to check. But it was so much fun. Like the energy was just infectious. The wee woo chants were amazing. The game was great too, but it just felt different. And I know that's like such a broad thing to say, but it honestly did because you could just feel the enthusiasm, not just like for the league as a whole and not just like as a gimmicky thing. And I think that's the difference. Like a few weeks ago, my friend went to the one in Denver and she had gone each year. And she's like, the first year you go, there's a lot of kids there and a lot of families. She's like, you go the next year and it's just adults that are so locked in on the game that it adds like a realness to everything, that everyone's just there because you want to see this competitive game. So there's the novelty of seeing Hilary Knight here, but there's also like a huge game going on and everybody was locked in from start to finish.
What was so cool too, and I'm glad you mentioned Hilary Knight, was during the Dream Gap Tour, which was what the players in the PWHPA were doing before the league launched. They had a game at Madison Square Garden, but it was during the pandemic, so there was no fans. And I saw this video from Mary Kay Messier with Bauer, and Billie Jean King like stood there and gave a little speech to the players of like, keep fighting, like this is your moment. Like I know there's not that many people here, but like this is a big moment for you guys. Like keep pushing, keep doing this. And Hilary Knight was in that game. Yeah, there's like 20 people in the building because of the pandemic. It's Billie Jean King and Mary Kay Messier and like staff members and the players, and that's it. And so for Hilary Knight to then like have this moment on top of like all the incredible ones this player has had in her career, to then she's the only player who played in that Dream Gap Tour game that was in the MSG game this weekend. And I just thought that was very cool for like her and everyone to get to experience like a full barn in that building specifically. Even Billie Jean King, like she did the puck drop. Her and Alana Kloss were there. Foje Johnson, which I thought was very cool. Actually, the LSU basketball star. And I'm hoping she gets drafted by the Toronto Tempo. That'd be very fun for me. But even Billie Jean King said, I don't think I've ever heard it that loud. And that is somebody who has done many, many big events at Madison Square Garden. I just thought it was just such a perfect moment for the league. It was just very cool.
Yeah. And I think the game delivering the drama the way it did, like it was loud the game without that. And then you have a tying goal and everybody's going nuts. And like I've been in that building for NHL playoff games. I have been, where there is excitement. It's like you could feel the momentum building, right? And I think that Hilary Knight moment that you mentioned is so cool because it truly is full circle to see how far everything has come to be selling out this building. And I get it. It's like, well, there's one off game here and, obviously there's going to be excitement, but I do honestly feel like if they played, say, 5 or 6 games next year there, that excitement would still be there. Maybe there'd be more of it. Maybe it'd be a healthier Sirens team that's, a little higher in the standings that then there's even more traction, right? Because it's such a stacked draft class coming into this. It felt like the players rose to the occasion. It felt like the fans rose to the occasion. And it was sick. Everything about it was sick. Down to the drone crashing on the ice, which you're just like, what is happening? But even that, like I saw the shots of that too, and it felt like that was next level. It's like everything just came together the right way.
Yeah, they did a big one with that. And yeah, the Sarah Fillier game tying goal, I was like, that was very cool too, because this is a player who like made the commitment to stay in New York. Like she wants to build something. They're building it around her. And so like that was like big players come up in big moments. Like what a huge goal for a critically important piece of the Sirens. And if that team ends up, you know, they're still playing relevant hockey in April, which is a step up from the last 2 seasons, right? But if that's a Sirens team that's going to compete for Walter Cups, it's going to be Sarah Fillier. It's going to be Kristina Kaltonkova, who didn't play in that game. She's on LTIR. It's going to be Casey O'Brien. And whatever, you know, incredible first round pick they get this year, because like you said, it's stacked. So that game was unbelievable. Peter Baugh went in my stead, and I hate him for it. I'm super jealous. I had like a commitment here in Toronto, so I couldn't go. And I was super bummed, but I'm very happy that you got to experience that. Like literally just as a fan. Like Peter in the press box, rare. Fine, like go do your job. But like for you to just get to go and experience that, because you've been in the women's hockey stratosphere for a long time too. So it's very cool that you got to just go and sit and vibe and enjoy it.
You know, when the games are in New Jersey, it's a little easier for me. And it's fun too, because like down to getting tickets, it was hard. Like it was not, we wanted it that we could go as this massive group and we couldn't. And even that you get excited about because it shows the growth, right? Like it's not easy to get tickets here. It's not easy to, it's in demand for good reason. I mean, everything about it. I was like on cloud 9 the entire game down to the shootout. I've never watched a shootout where people are more enthusiastic in my life. Every single shot,
almost Forsberg pulling the puck off the line, like crazy.
Everyone's on their feet. Like literally every time the Sirens shot the puck, everyone's standing up. The whole last minute of regulation, everyone's standing up. And in overtime, you're basically on your feet the whole time because it was that back and forth. It was that exciting.
That's awesome. I love that. I'm so glad that you were there. Okay, let's transition to some NHL news though. Alex Ovechkin. He announces it. He says it in an interview. He's not made a final decision on his playing future. He said this in an interview with Caps team broadcaster John Walton. He said in that he's going to make that decision in the summer. That comes out just before morning skate, before the Washington Capitals play the Toronto Maple Leafs yesterday. That's Wednesday. The biggest factor in his decision, Ovechkin said, was, quote, health-wise, I'm going to be 41. So you just have to be smart about it. Even at 40, he leads the Caps in goals right now, and he's hit the 30 mark for the 20th time in his career. So while Ovi mulls it over, Shayna, what do you think? Like, what would you like to see him do? Just hang it up? Say sayonara, that was a great run, or do you want to see him come back?
I mean, I think he's someone that has earned that farewell tour.
Yes.
So, you know, if he wants to come back, go off. Because, I mean, I think sometimes you see it with players, you're like, well, their game's declined so much. And there are elements of his game that have absolutely declined. But like you said, like this is someone who can still score goals. That's his bread and butter. And there's a way to maximize him in the lineup that the Caps can just keep running it and have him cook as long as he wants to. Because sure, most players at 40 years old are completely, a shell of themselves. But when you start at such an elite level, like your aging curve is going to be above average. And for him, it still is on the score sheet. So, he's earned the right to take a moment, take a beat, decide whatever's best for him. And then whatever happens. But it does feel like the greatest goal scorer of all time should get one last tour around the NHL.
Yeah, so that's the one thing I don't want to say I was disappointed about. But I think him, like, let's say he announces in August that he's done. He's retiring. Like, you kind of miss out on the moment, as you said, to like tour around, like fans. And I think there are some fans and some people who are like, okay, I'm going to go to the game in Toronto because the Leafs stink, but maybe I'll see Ovi for the last time. Like, there's a bit of like, maybe I'll go see him one more time. Like, they're playing in Pittsburgh. You've got Penguins fans who are like, maybe we can see Crosby and Ovechkin one more time. But there's this element of uncertainty there versus full-on celebration. So part of me kind of wishes that we would have seen a full decision get made so everyone can come and say, like, this is it. Let's go celebrate this guy and his career on his way out. But obviously, if he's at a point where he's like, I'm going to take the summer and really decide, like, obviously respect that too. It's more just like, I love the retirement tour. I really do. And like, as someone, I went to like Kobe Bryant's last game ever in Toronto. And like, those are just moments that are very cool when you know it's like, this guy is never going to be here again. The energy just shifts. So that's the only thing I was like, oh, take your time, I guess. It's an important decision. But like, what about me?
Yeah. No, but that's fair because I feel like lesser players have gotten these big retirement tour moments too. And here it is. You have like the greatest goal scorer of our time, one of the best offensive threats of all time, that it's like, okay, if anyone should get that last run, that last whip around, that last chance to be like, you know what, I'm going to score one on you too. Why not? Add a couple more goalies to the list because, you know, it just keeps going. He's still producing. It's just, how can the Capitals manage his game? Because I think already we've seen him like tweak some things, even just being less physical, like a little bit less, you know, energy spent in one direction is going to help him sustain it in another. But yeah, it just feels like of all players, he should get that chance if he wants it. I also don't blame a player that's like, I don't want it. I don't want all the fanfare. I had it because he did. Like, look at last season was a prime example of it.
Last year. Yeah.
Yeah. He has a Stanley Cup. He has the record now. Whatever he does is just extra. So, you know, I think it's nice to see a player like take a moment, think about it. And if he knows if he doesn't continue, he's not going to get that might be fine by him too.
Yeah. Because you don't want to be like the Tom Brady and say you're done. And then it's a week before the season and you're like, ooh, I've actually got some gas in the tank. Or you don't want to be announcing your retirement.
Especially if you say you have gas and then you don't.
Exactly. So you know what? It's probably smart at his age to just be like, I'm going to actually sit and think on this. And if it's July and I'm itching to get back on the ice, maybe I'll give it a whirl. But yeah, it would be cool to get to see the celebration. But because of the games that are on the schedule, like you've got 2 games against the Penguins, which has obviously been such a huge rivalry over the course of Ovechkin's long career. But I think those games will still be celebratory and have a little extra gas in them just because people know this could be it. And I think it's interesting in that game against the Leafs, we did see like the players who could take over for Ovi, but also the reasons why he might want to come back. You've got Tom Wilson and Ryan Leonard, Cole Hudson. It's an empty net goal, but still Logan Thompson gets the shutout. Like there's players who can steer the ship once he's gone, but there's also players that can keep the Caps like relevant for him to maybe be like, you know what, I want to still be a part of this. So we'll see.
Yeah. And you've had that crossover already that like it's, if you say, okay, the guard's been changed, it's like, okay, well, here you go, Protus, go cook. This is your team now, you know, things like that. But it's also, if you have so much up and coming talent and the Capitals have done a really good job replenishing that over the last couple of years, that you can kind of offset his drawbacks at this point in his career too. So it can go both ways.
Super interesting. We'll keep an eye on that over the course of the summer. What does Alex Ovechkin do? Really quickly before we get to Eric, and this transitions us well, actually, because we want to look at the San Jose Sharks specifically, as well as, you know, the kind of California fight for the playoffs in the Pacific and the wild card. But the Oilers and Sharks had a very interesting matchup heading into Wednesday night. San Jose looking to make up some ground in the wild card race against the LA Kings. Edmonton, they want to keep hold of the top spot in the Pacific. They want to get ahead. Get some more points ahead of the Vegas Golden Knights. You've got Connor McDavid versus Macklin Celebrini. Like, there's a ton of juice and intrigue heading into this. Turns out it's just the Connor McDavid show. And, like, that's okay when you're sitting on your couch watching this. Hat trick in the first 35 minutes, a 5.90 factors into every goal in a 5-2 victory. Just an unbelievable showing by Connor McDavid last night, Shayna.
Yeah, he was amazing. And it's, you know, you get that first period where Celebrini and McDavid are trading goals, and you're like, okay, maybe we have something here. Some of their matchups this year have been really exciting, and Celebrini's been next level. Like when the Sharks are in it, you know, you see it. He has 4 primary points on the night or something, just like McDavid did. But instead, McDavid takes over, which the Oilers need him to do. I feel like he's just revving up for the playoffs because he's been great this season. He's great every season, but I don't look at it like this is the most dominant version of Connor McDavid we've ever seen. But he has that switch to flip. And I think the big question you look at the Oilers is, does the entire team? Every year the Oilers start poorly and then it doesn't matter. You're like, just see what happens in April and March. And that turnaround starts happening a little bit sooner where you see the team gearing up for the playoffs. I don't exactly feel the same way this year. Sure, there's been some improvements, but not enough in my book to be like, this is the threat of the West. You're like, okay, I could see you win the Pacific, but who among us wants to play if we're in the Pacific at this point? Right. But it feels like him hitting that gear, you're like, okay, it's the right time for this to happen, to see him just take over games. So that's encouraging for the Oilers.
I feel like the Ducks weren't getting like any respect while they were leading the Pacific because everyone was just like, well, right, it's because the Oilers stink right now.
Yeah. And the Golden Knights, you're like, okay, you're here. Great. It's more like we're patting the Ducks on the back half the year of like, congrats, you're in the playoffs. Big turnaround. The offense is great. But then everyone's like, but, and it felt like we were wrongly saying but until they had that like losing streak between December and January, because Dostal comes back from injury. The team forgets how to play defense. You watch every goal against, you're like, well, he didn't play it well, but oh my God, what's happening in front of him?
Yeah.
And now it's like, sorry guys, you're not going to get that respect. You're fun. We're excited you're here, but that's about it.
I also feel like we maybe just take Connor McDavid for granted to transition back to the Oilers here. I was just looking like this is his most productive season since 2022-23. I know that's not that long ago, but like when we're looking at a player who has 123 points, 153 points, 132, 100, then 133, this is just another huge season for a guy who's been putting up massive points year after year after year. And you almost have to gut check yourself every once in a while to say, oh my God.
Yeah.
He's doing a lot.
Yeah, like between the goal against Utah the other night, or I think it was the first goal he scores against the Sharks. Last night you watch it and you're just like, oh my God, there he is again. And then you watch the second goal and then the third one comes up and it's like, you have to remind yourself, like, it's okay to still be like, wow, this is amazing. Yes, I expect this from him. Yes, I expect him to bring it. And we've seen him do incredible things. And we've seen him do it all the way through the Stanley Cup final, do incredible things. And sure, game 78 doesn't matter as much, but you can still look at it and just be like, oh my God, this is, the best player in the NHL, bar none.
Yeah.
And he continues to prove that maybe he should be in a higher level league. I don't know.
Where else can he play? What can we do?
I don't know.
So yeah, he's got 4 goals and 7 points in his last 2 games. He's flipping the switch in April. He's gearing up for the postseason, which should make us excited about the Oilers. However, we are once again talking about the goaltending of this team. Not only has it just been like generically bad this season, but we did watch Connor Ingram get hurt in the game last night. He leaves. Tristan Jarry comes in. Ingram at one point in the third period at a TV timeout, like he came out, did a little skate, did a little stretch and was like, nope, I'm heading right back to sit down. Not great considering his numbers are better than Tristan Jarry's. So that's something to keep an eye on, is Connor Ingram's status, who takes over, who's the number one, and who's actually going to be making saves when it matters most for the Edmonton Oilers once again in 2026.
Maybe McDavid can. Maybe that's his next task, because it feels like someone's working against him at this point. And it's like, how can I make your life difficult, and how are you going to push past that? Because this situation, like, yes, since Paul Coffey's returned, the Oilers are playing a lot better defensively. We're seeing that Murphy-Nurse pair look a lot better, and they haven't had the easiest of competition. So, while you have those encouraging signs, you still need someone that's going to come up with a volume of saves and timely saves. And neither one fit Tristan Jarry at this point. And it felt like the Oilers should have known this going into the trade, as much as the previous situation was less than ideal and potentially, proved costly the last 2 postseasons. It just feels like they somehow made it so much worse. And it's not like they're just going to get a clean slate next year. And that's where I think the bigger problem is. They committed to multiple years of Tristan Jarry. He does not have a ton of playoff pedigree. And sometimes that gets overhyped, but when it's year after year, he's either not healthy enough to play or not good enough when he's in net. You look at it and go, how is this a Stanley Cup caliber goaltender? So if Ingram's out for any extended period of time, they're in trouble.
I will never forget how bad Tristan Jarry was in the first round against the Islanders for the Penguins.
Yep.
Like he torched their last good shot.
Yep. He looks unsure of himself from it too. And I feel like just gets so often you see goaltenders make mistakes and then they just overplay every situation because of that. And I feel like that's what can happen with him. And you're like, just take a breather. Just take a breather here. Because it's not going to get any easier. And it's, say the Oilers don't win the Pacific. They could get, say, Anaheim round one. Anaheim, do they have their own defensive issues? Yeah. But that is a team with a lot of firepower. That's going to be a problem if it, assuming it gets through that defense, and I'm going to assume some shots are going to, you're going to need the timely saves. Yeah. And that just is really concerning.
Yeah. All right. Well, on that note, sorry, Oilers fans. Eric Stevens is going to join us after this quick break. The Ducks, the Kings, the Sharks, they're all in and around it in this playoff race. And I'm super excited to talk to Eric because he does a great job covering all three of those teams. Also a Preds story. I used to think you were the busiest person here, Shayna. It might be Eric.
He's Eric. The busiest in just all Western Conference, all things Western Conference. He's like, I've got this.
He's busy. He's an expert. He's joining us next on the Athletic Hockey Show. All right, we are back on the Athletic Hockey Show. Eric Stevens, he covers the Ducks, the Kings, the Sharks, little sprinkle of the Nashville Predators this week. Just really anyone who is in the wild card race in the Western Conference. Eric Stevens has got you covered. He joins us now. Eric, what's up? How are you doing?
I'm good. How you doing, Hailey?
Good.
Yeah, how's everything?
Listen, we're having fun watching this from the outside, so I can't imagine how busy and exciting it is from your perspective.
It really is a kind of race that I don't in my many years covering the NHL that I really haven't come across, during my time. Just in the sense of how average a lot of the teams are at best. But also the fact that it's literally coming down to, each day, someone, winning, losing, grabbing a spot, losing a spot, even sometimes within the same night. It really is something. And, it really looks like it's just going to go down to the very end here as to who wins the Pacific Division and also who claims that second wild card in the West.
Yeah, Shayna and I just wrapped up talking about Connor McDavid essentially beating the Sharks 5-2 last night. They don't make up any ground in the wild card race. They're still 3 points back. But the way that the race is going, to your point, Eric, they're 5-2 in their last 7. They've got big games coming up against other teams that are in the wild card fight. That's a big loss for them, but it doesn't feel like they're out of the mix yet.
That's been kind of the whole race here, Hailey, is that, even though a team may lose and, each of these clubs have lost games here and there, no, they're not out of it because no one has really put together a sustained stretch in order to, say, grab that second wild card and just put a lockdown on it. We talked about Nashville a little bit ago. Mm-hmm. I mean, they're miraculously in it. They just lost three or four in a row. Now they've gotten back on the right side of it. But you would have thought that would have put them out, but they're still hanging around right there. We can go even deeper into it with, teams like Winnipeg and St. Louis that are still hanging mm-hmm. around here when it seemed like they were all dead. Right at the trade deadline or whatsoever. So that's what makes this wild card race and even the Pacific Division, which is still up for grabs, amazingly. That's what makes it so interesting is because, like you said, you would think that a loss like last night that the Sharks took, would really put them behind the 8 ball. But they could go into Anaheim, win that game, and they'll still be right there as we go into the the final weekend, the final stretch of days here.
You know what? Like the like you said, it's miraculous that the Predators are still in it. I think too, like it feels like the feeling around each team in this mix is so different, right? Like the Sharks, it's like sick, they're here. Okay, they lost a couple games. We'll see what happens next. This is a good experience. The Kings, it's like, well, you're a disappointment. Like, how much whiplash are you getting covering teams that it's not just who knows what they're doing, but the entire vibes and energy around their playoff races are totally different.
No, you're right, Shayna. It's really about expectations and the rosters that each have and where each club is kind of in their their respective evolutions here. San Jose, this is a feel good season, really. They weren't supposed to be anywhere near here. And we've seen what Macklin Celebrini has basically dragged this club, into playoff contention when, they're really supposed to be about at least 1 year away, if not two. LA went into the year, obviously they had they've had the first round disappointments. They kept running into the Oilers and losing here. And they've made a coaching change. DJ Smith's now behind the bench. But their expectations were to not just get in, but finally conquer that that first round hex that they've been dealing with. They've had such just a mixed bag year and underwhelming in a lot of respects, but yet they're still there and they still can kind of salvage their season, so to speak. So it really is something. Nashville, they thought they were done. They were selling at the deadline. But you've got those guys like O'Reilly and Stamkos, Marchessault, those veterans that have played big games in the past, and it was like they were defiant. We're not going to enter a rebuild. No, we're we've still got something to play for. So yeah, it really is. The narratives are different with each of those clubs because of the rosters that they have, where they are, in their respective paths. And that's another interesting layer to all this.
I remember feeling not bad, but you just get that like, oof, like when Kevin Fiala goes down and that this is a team, like they're trying to make the playoffs. Like you said, Eric, they eventually make their coaching change. And it's like, this is a team that went out and made their big acquisition before the Olympics. And then one of your big players, it's a reason why you will be able to compete. That's why you want to go and be a buyer at the deadline, gets hurt. And yet they're still in and around it. Like it really has been wild to watch the Kings, especially knowing that, where is this here? They have the second fewest regulation wins in the NHL this season. And they have this big injury to Kevin Fiala. They have a coaching change, which I think DJ Smith has brought in like a nice identity for this group. I think he's been a boost. I don't mean to say that as a bad thing, but only the Vancouver Canucks have lost one fewer games in regulation. And we know where Vancouver is. They've been eliminated for a while now. And yet the Kings are still in the playoff hunt. Like it's crazy. They're the one, I think, I've thrown all my eggs in the Sharks basket because Celebrini, and I'm like, they're way more fun. Like, Sharks are great. And to Shayna's point, it's the vibe change. But then there's the Kings where I'm like, this is just such a conundrum for me. Like, how are you doing this?
No, yeah, I think I literally wrote a story like that maybe about a week or two ago. Because you're right, it's been kind of a star-crossed year, in some ways. Remember, this is Anze Kopitar's final season, and this entire, not just the team, I mean, this entire organization wants to send him out on, I guess, a more proper note. I mean, you don't want Anze Kopitar, not playing in an important games or any important games here, as he rides into the sunset here. So that's been kind of a driving force. Certainly you alluded to DJ. I think what he's done, he's certainly brought a different energy to the bench, and he's got them playing more aggressive hockey. Now, we're not going to confuse the Kings with being the most exciting club in the league. I mean, they're still, on that side of, kind of being more low event. but they're more aggressive. They're using their forecheck much more. They've been a little bit more offensive minded. I don't know if they're necessarily playing better hockey under DJ, but it's certainly a heck of a lot more entertaining or whatsoever. And then right now they're actually getting some saves from Anton Forsberg, who I think, should and will have the net here, over these last few games here as they try to squeak in. So yeah, it's they've hung around all year, and they've been collecting a lot of these loser points. And I mean, they hold the record for most overtime games. One more and they'll have 20 losses in shootout or overtime. So it's confounding in a lot of ways, but they don't care how you get the points. It's just a matter of getting enough to get in.
So speaking of getting a bunch of points, Macklin Celebrini is doing that this year. How important has he been to the team's success? Like, do you think he has to make the playoffs to get Hart Trophy votes? Do you think he's already locked up a top 5 spot on a ballot?
Oh, I think he's got to be top 5 without question. There's no doubt. He deserves a lot of votes. I would even suggest, at least before last night, I would have even suggested that even if they just missed out on the playoffs, that he be considered for the Hart Trophy. I mean, let's be real here, and with no disrespect to Nikita Kucherov, who I think maybe has the best case of all, but Nikita Kucherov, obviously Connor McDavid, Nathan McKinnon, whatsoever. But I mean, the Sharks do not have nearly, what around Celebrini, what those players have at their disposal with regard to high level, elite level teammates. I mean, Macklin, I don't want to say it's not a one man show. Okay. Let's be real. It's not. And they have some nice players, but the Sharks don't have a Cale Makar and a Martin Necas. They don't have a Zach Hyman or an Evan Bouchard on their back end. They just don't. and so this is what Macklin's been operating with, and it hasn't stopped him from blowing up this year. It's just remarkable what he's done. Unfortunately, like I said, you have a game like yesterday where he scores their first goal, he gives them the lead, and it's almost like Connor McDavid took a look at that and took a look at what was not being said about him in social media in terms of being the best player, and he kind of reminded everyone on the planet that he is the best player. So it's fascinating, and it's just fascinating the fact that in his second year, Macklin is legitimately part of the Hart Trophy conversation, and you would hope and you would think that he's going to be part of that conversation for years on end as he gets older, as he gets stronger, as the Sharks get better around him and build a championship caliber club around him. That those should figure to only strengthen his case in future seasons.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's part of the Hart Trophy conversation, and the San Jose Sharks are still part of the wild card playoff conversation. A lot of that has to do with Macklin Celebrini. I'm with you on the Hart Trophy love here, Eric. Let's transition quickly to the Anaheim Ducks here, though, because they're out of the 3. They've been highest in the standings. Last week, they were first in the Pacific. Shayna and I had talked a bit in the first segment about how that's a team that didn't really get much love or respect for being first in the Pacific, just because the thought was well, it's because the Oilers and the Golden Knights haven't been playing very well, but that will change. And we've seen that. The Ducks have lost 4 straight games now, I believe, and they're third in the Pacific Division. Eric, are we concerned? We're talking about a Sharks team that's 5-2. The Kings don't win a lot in regulation, but they're getting points. The Ducks are kind of doing the opposite. They're sliding down while a lot of other teams are pushing. Is there a level of concern there for them?
I think there is, and I think that they're kind of feeling it right now because all that you've gained over the last several months, really all that you've gained ever since hiring Joe Quenneville, as your head coach, to this team that is still on the rise, I believe. But what it is that, you're seeing a club kind of feeling the pressure. And, you look back at their last game against Nashville, and they've kind of fallen into this pattern where, they start off real well, create a lot of chances. We know how explosive they can be and the kind of talent that they have offensively. But when they don't score, when they don't finish those chances, it's almost as if, they don't have that backup game right now. They, to be patient, to let it play out. It's almost like they're trying to force the issue when they don't score, and then, and then once the other team gets a goal or two, on them, it's as if, rather than kind of staying with the process, staying with what they've done over the course of the year with all their many comebacks in games whatsoever. It's almost like they're, rushing. I don't want to say panic. I hate to use the word panic, but there seemed to be an element of that. So you got to remember that even though there's a number of good veterans on this club surrounding that young core that's going to lead this team, that young core, whether, we talk about Leo Carlson and, et cetera, Cutter Gauthier, Beckett Seneca, obviously, they've never been in this. They've never been in something like this. They've never been in an atmosphere. They've never played games like this in the NHL where there is so much at stake. So this is a critical time right now, because if they don't stop the bleeding here, they haven't wrapped up a playoff spot yet. Who's to say that, they aren't the ones that are looking on the outside looking in if they can't stop this and turn it around real quickly here.
Okay, so rapid fire. Gut check. Who's making that last playoff spot? Like you just had to go, okay, this is the team. Who is it?
LA. I don't know if we all want that, but and honestly, there's parts of the fan base that don't want it. They really don't. They would like to see the Kings kind of chart a different course here. They wouldn't mind if they miss it, but there's enough motivation. There's enough veterans on that club, and again, Anze Kopitar. I think they're going to find their way in, and we talked about it earlier. They've got the easiest schedule remaining. They've got Vancouver twice, Calgary. Yes, they've got a big game against a tough game against Edmonton on Saturday, but I think they're going to find their way in.
I shouldn't boo. The Kopitar thing's cool. I'm just joking, everyone. It's all right.
We all love Anze Kopitar. Let's I mean, come on. But we know what the Kings have done over the last several months here.
I'm just going to go ahead and guess that Kings-Canucks game is going to go to overtime or something. Tied 1-1. Nobody can win in regulation ever with those two teams. Eric, thank you so much for doing this. We really appreciate it. The Western Conference playoff race, what's going on in the Pacific, is one of the most interesting things to track in the NHL right now. So we could have you on next week and have a completely different conversation. So we appreciate this.
No, I appreciate it. And yes, this is going to be decided in game 82 in a shootout.
Yeah. Thanks, Eric.
Thank you.
All right. My big takeaway, unfortunately, I'm going to sound like the biggest hater, is I feel like the NHL needs to go to a 3-2-1 point system.
They do. I'm sorry. A regulation win should count a lot more than a loser point. So it's like, no, we're not eliminating the loser point. No one's asking to, but there should be some separation. Like, please. P-Dubs has it right.
19 regulation wins and you're maybe in the postseason versus the Sharks, who have what? 30? 25 regulation wins. Still, that is
I want to ask for this.
More than 19. That's my fast math. We'll see how that race plays out. But there's another race going on, Shayna. We got to ask you about this before we let you go and we bring Sean back next week. It's the Norris Trophy race. It is closer than ever. You have a great story on The Athletic about this. I recommend everyone go read it if you want some more depth, because we only have a few minutes to wrap up here. But this looks like a pretty deep race this season. Like, just how many legit candidates are we talking about right now?
There's so many. Like, Dom wrote a really good story about this a couple weeks ago, how like the threshold is getting higher and higher. And you look at a guy like Miro Heiskanen, like what he's doing should be good enough for the Norris Trophy because he's been absolutely outstanding. What Erik Karlsson has done, especially since the Olympics, should be Norris caliber.
Mm-hmm.
But the bar is getting higher. Like it just is. Guys like Seider and Makar and Bouchard and Werenski and Hudson and Dahlin and Quinn Hughes and Jake Sanderson. Like I think they've added some separation in this and just pushed the threshold higher than we've seen before. So there's legitimately 10, 15 guys you could make a case for right now. And when it is that close and that deep, it's going to come down to all of the nitty gritty details. So it's going to be interesting to see who values what and who thinks what, what other details are going to be more important here, because you are literally going to have to split hairs.
Yeah. I just feel like, and you make this point in the story too, Shayna, like it's so hard to sit and compare what a Cale Makar does, dynamic offensive defender, to what a like more all around D does or a more defensive defender does. Like we're really comparing two different prototypes of player. And like I'm just there should be a best offensive D and a best defensive D award, because the interpretation of the best defender has changed a lot. And it's very much often just like, well, Cale Makar scored this many points. And he's like a good defender too, don't get me wrong. But I feel like the D who add more on the other side of the puck often kind of get lost in the shuffle there.
Yeah, like I get the argument of having more awards for defensemen because for whatever reason, people don't want to vote defenseman for the Hart. And then they're kind of like limited to this one. And we see it all the time where it's like, well, they're the most valuable player, but they don't necessarily hit the criteria. I like that it's one award. I just think we have to get better at assessing defense and thinking about it, because like this year, it does feel like truly like there's a defenseman for everyone. If you think they need to be an offensive ace, but solid defensively, there are guys for that, right? Like you could go for Bouchard if that's your vibe. If you think they need to be a defensive ace who sprinkles in some offense, Mo Seider's your guy. You want all around, you're getting it in Werenski and Makar and Dahlin. So it's like there's no wrong answer here. But it's just going to be all of us thinking what matters in this. And it's different from, say, like the Selke Trophy in my book, where that's the best defensive forward. So you're saying, okay, they have to go up against top competition. You're going to be stricter on, they should be PK number one.
Yeah.
Here, it's all around. It's like, well, they should go up against top competition. But if they're not all year long, like say how the Red Wings have lightened Seider's load as of late, then you can go, okay, that's fine. Oh, you're on the PK, but you're not the number one guy first over the boards. That's okay too, as long as you have a little bit of it. But then you're going to have to prioritize what little bits you care about to find the right option.
Seider having like pretty equal offensive and defensive net rating, or offensive and defensive ratings, and then having one of the top net ratings. Like he looks like the complete package for this award.
Sure, the scoring, not as prolific as some of the other guys. He's not as much of a puck mover as guys like, Werenski and Hudson, but he does.
But isn't that kind of the issue with the award, though? Is like if you look, oh, well, he only had 55 points this season, so like, Matt. But it's like, who cares?
Yeah, we're not saying Esa Lindell should win the Norris when he barely scores and, you're below 30 points. Because there are guys who are below 30 points and elite defensively. Like Seider, I think, has enough scoring to be in the conversation because scoring is a part of it. But it's the offensive impact below the scoring that I think impresses the most. Like he plays the most traditional style of defense because he's physical, the way he breaks up plays. He's a workhorse defenseman. So if that's your vibe, you have it. And he checks technically all of the boxes in between. But it really is impressive like how split it is, because he's someone that truly is MVP caliber when you look at what he's done for the Red Wings and when you look at how terrible this team is defensively without him on the ice. But it's Norris caliber too. Like he actually, I feel like, hits all the marks here.
Mm-hmm. Who would have your vote right now?
I don't know. So normally I do the story and I'm like, and
then you decide at the end.
Yeah. And I'm like, okay, this matters to me. Or, oh, you know what? Like, let me go through this. And with this, like I think Lane Hudson's having an amazing season. He doesn't kill enough penalties for me. He doesn't get the top matchups that I could see him being top five, but not number one now. I probably am leaning Werenski. I think he was number two for me last year. I think he's my best all around. And I have the fewest nitpicks with him.
Okay.
But like Seider's definitely top 3 for me too. So probably Makar as well. And I keep kind of like waffling back and forth. And then I was really digging through the video here to like, you want to make sure that's the guy that's doing all the little defensive things too, to shift back to offense. And I feel like those guys do a ton that I think Werenski's my guy right now.
Okay. I love that. It's interesting. I like that it's a debate just because there was so many years where it was just like, well, it's Cale or, oh, it's got to be between Cale and Quinn. And now we just have like more people to talk about legitimately having a case to win this award. It's good stuff. I recommend everyone take a look at that story from Shayna if you want to go more in depth on that topic. Big night in the NHL. Oilers, one of 4 teams who could clinch a postseason berth along with the Penguins, Bruins, and the Utah Mammoth. I wish Sean, this is the one moment I wish Sean was here so we could ask him, like, why did you think that the Penguins were going to be like the second worst team in the league this season?
I think we all thought they'd be pretty low,
true,
right?
It's true. Hey, you were part of season previews too. I'm just joking. It didn't look great, but the Penguins have been a great story. Same with the Boston Bruins. We had Fluto on last week. If you want to check that interview out, he was great in explaining how the Bruins have been able to pull off this retool. Utah Mammoth as well. As I said, the Avs can clinch the President's Trophy with a win over the Flames as well. That's it from us. Thank you, Shayna. Thank you, Eric Stevens. Thanks, everyone, for listening to this episode of the Athletic Hockey Show. The Prospect Series have a new show on Friday. Sean and I will be back next Thursday with a preview of the Eastern Conference playoffs. 14 games in the NHL tonight, including Peter DeBoer's debut behind the Islanders bench. That's fun. Right, Shayna?
I'm excited. Like, coaching changes, why not? Let's see.
Perfect. Let's see how it goes. See everyone next week.
Thanks for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe and ring the bell to stay informed and catch new episodes every Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And in the meantime, you can join our Discord community. We'll see you there.